Good morning. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you here today to the steps of Elizabeth City Hall. My name is Chris Bollwage, the mayor here in the city of Elizabeth, and I'm especially pleased to be joined by Senator Lautenberg and Senator Menendez, our two United States representatives, and a host of others who I'll introduce in a moment. And keep in mind that today's conversation about sensible and reasonable gun control measures are extremely important with our legislators and advocates who continue to fight for the safety of our families across America and our home state. Massacres in Virginia Tech, Tucson, Columbine, Colorado, Wisconsin have clearly shifted the national conscience to gun control and the debate about the Second Amendment. It's extremely important to recognize that our two U.S. senators who are here have been leaders on this issue, and it's my pleasure to begin those introductions. First, I'd like to introduce a member of the Congress whose leading voice on gun safety. He's worked throughout his career to draft legislation and prevent criminals and terrorists from obtaining guns and assault weapons. The senior senator from New Jersey, Senator Frank Lautenberg.
Thanks very much, Mayor Bollwage. It's a pleasure to be here with you on an occasion that calls attention to the protection and safety of our citizens. Having lived in this city on South and William Street when I was a little boy, I don't think you were mayor then, but just seems that way. But anyway, I'm pleased to be here. My colleague in the Senate, Bob Menendez. No one is a stronger fighter than Bob Menendez on the safety of our people and the fight against the incredible presence of guns in our state and in our country. We do things together, and we're a force to be reckoned with, despite the NRA on the other side. Rush Holt, Congressman, also a fighter against the gun proliferation that we see dogging our society. And State Senator Ray Lesniak, who carries the ball here at home, and a constant fight to try to protect the citizens of the state, despite sometimes differences with our governor, who accused us of grandstanding as a result of the killing in Aurora, Colorado. When is the time to take up an issue like this? When it's a little bit into the background, not thinking about it, or at the moment in time when people say, my God, what else do we have to do in this country of ours? Protect ourselves from the violence that the NRA and its cronies continue to present for us. Friends, our hearts are heavy following yet another massacre, this one shattering the peace of the Sikh community in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Our thoughts are with those in mourning and still recovering in Wisconsin, Colorado, every place that's touched by gun violence. We're here today because it just can't be about mourning. It has to be about action. It has to be, what do you say to the people in our country who would worry about their children going to school or what have you, being away from home, being in the streets with gunfire surrounding them in many places. Too many guns on our streets, and there's too much pain in our communities. And this week, again, we're confronted with the urgency of our mission. And we're taking real action to fix our lax gun laws. It was sad to see our governor say, after the Colorado shootings, that those who talk about working to prevent gun violence are grandstanding. This governor knows what grandstanding is, and I'm surprised that he used some of his grandstanding time to criticize us for trying to save lives and to get more sensibility into our communities. He went so far as to say that the federal government should not pass any new gun laws. It's an outrageous statement of it by itself. And he ought to be ashamed, but he doesn't know what the word means to make that kind of a comment. In New Jersey, we see the toll of out-of-state guns firsthand. In 2011, about 80% of the guns traced by police in New Jersey came from other states. And the governor doesn't think that the federal government ought to have a role in stopping this madness. They come to New Jersey from states with weaker gun laws. That's why we need strong federal laws. Why should we put off trying to save lives in our country? There is no excuse for that kind of behavior. That's why I proposed 2 bills to prevent another gun tragedy. My bills would ban high-capacity magazines and effectively ban online ammunition sales. Is that incredible? To be able to buy these ammunition over the internet. Here we see, I think there something like there are 6,000 bullets there. 6,000 bullets. When I was in the Army during World War II, I was on a 20-man team, and I never saw that much ammunition, and it wasn't necessary even there. If you had enough and you could shoot straight, you were a lot better off defending liberty and justice wherever was necessary. My bills would ban high-capacity magazines and effectively ban online ammunition sales, so murderers and terrorists cannot create stockpiles of ammunition without raising red flags. The Colorado gunman had a 100-round magazine that let him fire off dozens of rounds without having to reload. And if the magazine hadn't jammed at the end of 70 firings, there would have been more murders or more injuries. These magazines put us all in danger. They put law enforcement in danger as well. No police officer ought to be outgunned by a criminal. High-capacity gun magazines simply have no place on our streets, and no one should be able to amass 6,000 rounds online without raising any red flags. Friends, the time for action is now. We cannot let the NRA, with their relatively small membership in a country of 310 million people, guide our policy on guns to permit or encourage more gun ownership, more violence directly in our society. It's unacceptable. We can stop the gun lobby. We've done it before, and we'll continue to fight the fight. We did a piece of anti-gun possession by spousal abusers. In 1996, I wrote the law that kept 200,000 guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. They said you couldn't. Frank, you'll never pass the law. We passed it because the American people wanted it. They wanted to protect those in the home of these crazies who also are thugs who want to keep a supply of guns there, and they shouldn't have it. So, friends, just a quick recall. In Trenton, our capital city, they laid off a third of the police department. The consequences were, in 2011, there was a 53% increase in murders. 168 police officers were laid off in Camden, and the murder rate went up 27%. And in the city of Newark nearby, 160 police officers were laid off, and violent crime went up 13%. But I don't hear the governor complaining about that. I don't hear the governor complaining about fewer firemen in some of our cities that have been around a long time and have buildings that are subject to incendiary attacks. So what happens? Nothing. not from this governor. But we're going to fight the fight, and I'm pleased at this point in time to have Bob Menendez standing here with me and our other friends here. And Bob, please.
Thank you very much, Senator. Great remarks. I also want to, as a member of the Mayors Against Illegal Guns, I want to recognize some of the other mayors that are here. The Mayor Jamel Holly from Roselle, Mayor Antonio Resigliano from Edison, Mayor Colleen Marr from Fanwood, Mayor Dawn Zimmer from Hoboken, and Mayor Richard Kerbunka from Linden. Our next speaker is a member of the Congress and a leading member about the debate and the national conversation on reasonable gun control. This senator continues to fight for stronger federal gun laws rather than a patchwork of state laws. And he has a voting record that proves his commitment to sensible gun control, voting against allowing the guns on Amtrak trains, stood strong on reinstating the assault weapons ban, someone I've worked since his days in Congress in the early 1990s, Senator from New Jersey, Robert Menendez.
Well, thank you, Mayor, very much. It's good to be here in Elizabeth again. I wish it was for a different topic, but nonetheless, good to be here with your leadership. I think Mayor Bollwage is one of the outstanding mayors, not just of our state and our country, and his advocacy with the U.S. Conference of Mayors on so many issues, including this one, is an incredibly important one. You can't have anyone being a stronger advocate for reasonable gun control legislation than Senator Frank Lautenberg. He has led this fight against the odds on more than one occasion and often won. And so I'm thrilled to be with him in this fight for the safety and security of our citizens. With our colleague Rush Holt in the House of Representatives, who's been a strong voice on this issue with so many members of the state legislature, Senator Lesniak and others, and local mayors and council people all coming together because we are all sworn. At the end of the day, our oath in office is to protect our citizens. And in my mind, there is no greater way to protect our citizens than to ensure reasonable gun control measures. First, I want to say that my thoughts and prayers are with the Sikh community, those who lost lives and their families in Wisconsin, those who are injured. The Sikh community is one of the most peaceful communities in our nation. Their whole existence, their whole belief, religious belief, is to live an exceptional life. And to think that they would be attacked from every indication out of hatred is in fact, and that they would be killed is in fact an amazing set of circumstances, an enormous tragedy. Now, I want to join with Senator Lautenberg in saying enough is enough. Second Amendment rights, fine, but common sense needs to prevail in our country. Tragedies like Colorado and Wisconsin are a wake-up call to us as a nation. And the beginning of that reasonable common sense approach is a ban on high-capacity ammunition clips. You don't need 100 shots if you are a hunter. That's not hunting. You don't need an assault weapon to go hunting. When you call an arm an assault weapon, it tells you what that weapon is all about. When you call an assault weapon a street sweeper, we are not talking about cleanliness. We are talking about killing as many people as possible. And you cannot have a set of circumstances with a click of a mouse on a computer that can buy unlimited amounts of ammunition and ultimately believe that that is in the individual safety and security of all of our citizens. Make no mistake, the world is watching. The world is watching of the tragedies in America, from Columbine to Virginia Tech, to the shooting of our former colleague Gabby Giffords, to a movie theater in Aurora, and now a Sikh temple in Wisconsin. And the world is asking, what is going on in America? Guns, fine. Second Amendment rights, okay, but let's be reasonable about what is acceptable and what is beyond all logic and all reason in protecting Second Amendment rights, so that at the same time we can protect American citizens from the insanity of assault weapons. In my view, no reasonable person can look at the shooting in Colorado and wonder how someone can ultimately amass such an arsenal with the click of a mouse. No reasonable person could dispute that maybe it's time to ban the sale of assault weapons and that have no purpose other than war or wanton destruction of human life. And let us say that for those who say that there should be allowed for each state to make that decision, I think Senator Lautenberg focused on some of these things. First of all, we actually have states that regulate cold medication containing certain ingredients that we can buy in certain periods of time, because those ingredients can be used to make meth and threaten our children. Well, if we can ultimately limit how much medication you can purchase during the course of a week, it seems to me that we can have a federal ban on high-capacity clips. That makes common sense. Let me make the final point about why Senator Lautenberg's legislation, which I support, needs to be nationally created. The Brady campaign issued a 100-point scorecard, ranking all 50 states on the basis of laws that can reduce gun violence, like background checks and permit-to-purchase requirements. New Jersey had the second highest ranking. Virginia had one of the lowest. The Brady campaign included data taken from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which shows that states with weak gun laws have a crime gun export rate 7 times higher than the states with strong gun laws. Reason says that we should not be against common sense laws when more and more guns are flowing out of those states and into states like New Jersey that have a stronger law, where our law enforcement officers are already facing the challenge of that type of gun violence as they protect our communities. In 2011, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms traced 3,357 guns used in crimes in New Jersey. Out of those, 363 were from Pennsylvania. From the I-95 corridor, which is the nation's gun-running alley, 34 were from Delaware, 170 from Virginia, 196 from North Carolina, 122 from South Carolina, 104 from Florida, 145 from Georgia. That's 771 guns. 33% of the total guns used in New Jersey crimes were from the I-95 corridor, plus the 363 from Pennsylvania. What does it matter if we have one of the strongest laws if you go to another state, easily get access to gun and ammunition, and cross into our state? Yes, it's illegal here, but after you've shot and killed someone, that illegality means nothing to the family who lost a loved one. So this is why we need national legislation. How many more sons and daughters must we lose? How many brothers and sisters must we lose? How many husbands and wives must we lose? I think the time has come for a national conversation, and for those of us who take an oath of office to protect our citizens to pass these very reasonable gun control measures and ensure the safety and security of our citizens.
Thank you very much, Senator.